Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining Biotech Connection Singapore's monthly webinar. And this week, we have one on assessing the Chinese market, a perspective from two startups. And today with me, we have two startup founders and also one major capitalist. We have Dr. Feng Yang, Dr. Wang Likun, and Dr. Li Wei from Transform Ventures joining us on this community collaborative webinar by ACSI and Biotech Connection Singapore, assessing the Chinese market, a perspective from two startups, specifically from a perspective from the China pharma market. So without further ado, let me just introduce Dr. Wang. So Dr. Wang obtained his bachelor degree and PhD from Zhejiang University and National University of Singapore. Dr. Wang joined Johnson & Johnson Research and Development in Belgium as a research scientist in 2011. He played key roles in designing and developing several successful drug products, aquafamidite, and also others. He started to lead the performance team in Johnson & Johnson Research and Development since 2014 as a senior scientist and group leader. Furthermore, Dr. Wang joined Jiangsu Hengrui Medical Co. Ltd. as the site director and Hengrui Nanjing Research Institute in 2015. After that, Dr. Wang has successfully enabled drug products development of more than 10 NCEs and more than 5 super generics in Hengrui. Now, with 30 years of peer-reviewed journals and publications and inviting speakers at patent filings, Dr. Wang has founded Nanjing Highway Technologies in 2018, focusing on drug stability predictions, NCE drugability, and developability assessments. So without further ado, I will invite Dr. Wang to give his presentation. Dr. Wang, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Very nice to have this chance to meet everybody online and share our pharma experience in China. So my slide will be divided into two parts. So the first part, I will give a brief introduction of my understanding of China pharmaceutical market. What does it look like, and what will be the best market assess strategy from my perspective? Where are the opportunities? And the second part, I will share a little bit about my experience. Next slide, please. Okay, so this slide shows the China pharmaceutical market size and trend. Okay, so from this trend, we can see that the compound annual growth rate still quite high and forecast until 2023. So there's still quite high growth rate, and this trend will continue due to a very large population, and also the society is also aging for China, and also the growing GDP also driving people or enabling people to have better living conditions. Also, of course, there will be need for better healthcare conditions and including better pharmaceutical products. Okay, so therefore there will be continued growth for all kinds of products. Okay, so here we see that there will be original brands and there will be non-original branded products and unbranded products, and even so if I review what happened during the last 5 to 6 years when I came back to China in 2015, I think there's a major milestone there before and after 2015. Okay, so before this milestone, it's the China pharmaceutical market is really availability driven. Okay, so the policy and the product is mainly to meet the availability issue of the pharmaceuticals. Okay, so therefore the quality is the secondary consideration, and also innovation products is not encouraged. Okay, and by the time in 2015, so there are more than 4,000 pharmaceutical companies in China. Okay, so this is really a quite big number for the pharmaceutical companies. Okay, and after 2015, so there is a dramatic change for the policy for the pharmaceutical industry. Okay, so after 2015, we become very quality driven, and China also striving to become ICH member. And for generic products, we studied QCE. I will introduce this later, which is called quality consistency evaluation. And after that, so the new molecule entities, we call it NCE, is very encouraged, and there is a boom for really biotech companies and also CRO or CDMO companies really developing very fast. Okay, everything happened just within the last around 5 years time. Okay, so next slide, please. So if we go to the QCE, so we need to understand. So QCE is an effort from the Chinese market trying to ensure the quality of generics, okay, is consistent with reference drug product or the originator, okay. Some people call it ethical drug, okay. So and also the Chinese market, the Chinese company, Chinese government is trying to keep the price quite reasonable. Okay, so therefore, the China healthcare security system will uh, uh, will have a bid. Okay, so for the first three companies pass the QCE test. Okay, the QCE test is mandatory for all the drug products after 2015. So we started first from oral solid dosage forms, then followed by injectables. Now we are doing QCE for the topical formulations. Okay, and for the companies, the first three companies pass QCE, so they will have a chance to enter the bid. Okay, to cut a very big market covered by China healthcare security, and by exchange, so they need to lower the price, okay, and so that they can win the bid, okay. The OTC is not impacted in this QCE QCE system, okay. So next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, so the NME, new molecular entity, or NCEs. So back to 5 years ago, there's almost a very little amount of NMEs or NCEs in China market. But now, the recent data is for the first half year in China, there are more than 1,000 filings for the IND, okay, including small molecule, large molecule, cell therapy, and mRNA. Okay, so they are really developing very fast, and licensing and the licensing out is becoming more and more frequently. And for example, there are so many drug products being developed, and some hot targets are really in the over competition situation. Okay, so by now, there are 5 local PD-1 drug product approved. Okay, and there are only 4 PD-1s. Okay, are from MNCs. Okay, so that means in China market, there are 9 PD-1 large molecules. Okay, for cancer treatment, and China healthcare security also started the bidding process for NME systems. Okay, it's for lower price, and this will expect to occur routinely. Okay, next slide. So what will be the strategy if we want to enter China market? Okay, so now we need to understand that after QCE, so the generics need to be at very low price, and also the profit is controlled for generic products, while we need to provide good quality products as well. And the bidding will occur every 3 years, okay? And also for the NMEs, there is over competition for hot targets, and there needs to be fast and unique in a certain area. Okay, next slide. So for generics, I really don't recommend people to enter, right? Because there's competition is very fierce, and the price and profit are dropping rapidly. Okay, and OTCs might still have opportunities because the price of OTCs is not impacted. You can really set up your price on your own. And also there, I will highlight that there might be also opportunities to sell high quality and low price generics to Southeast Asia area. Okay, so let me another direction to work this way. And instead of entering China market, you may also trying to connect the China production capabilities to the East Asia market, okay, and project those products to Southeast Asia market. For the class or first in class, I really have attractive the venture capitals, and licensing out or licensing, there's still opportunities if you really understand the target, and you can try to licensing in or licensing out product in the pipeline. There will be opportunities as well. So for technical services, for CROs, now the big CROs are really getting big and they cover every area. And a lot of CROs go to specialized area. Okay, for example, my company specializes in accelerated stability, and also a lot of CROs, they becoming CDMOs. That means they can do research, they can also do contract development, they can also do contract manufacturing. So that means we're really covering from target identification to manufacturing. They cover really this whole production, develop and production chain. Okay, next slide. Okay, so now I will share my experience roughly. So I already graduated from NUS and get my PhD from NUS in 2011. Then I really worked for Johnson Johnson in Belgium for about 5 years. Then I came back to China, so joined a local pharma company, then started my own company. Okay, next slide. And my company really have interesting business model, just like what you mentioned just now. So we help other biotechs and the pharma companies to really develop their NCEs at a faster rate. Okay, so we provide uh, accelerated stability test services for those companies. Okay, so this will be a very niche area, but we can do this much faster and provide better quality compared to other bigger CROs, so that we can have revenue and have connections and also have in-house expertise. For long term, we are trying to develop 505(b)(2) drug innovation, or some people call it super generics. And we really don't want to hold those drugs. We hope we develop to a certain area. Some larger pharmas get interested, and we can co-develop it together. Hopefully, we can get exponential growth in the long run. Okay, next slide. So for stability, we had a strategic collaboration with FreeSync Technology, which is based in US, and we share the similar business model and provide service in China and even some countries like Korea and also Indonesia. Slide, please. So currently, we are 3 years on the way since we start up the company. So now we have about 20 employees. So our revenue is in million US dollar range, and also venture capital investment also invested in us. And now we have about 2,000 square lab space. So for the CRO scope, we are also expanding to solid state chemistry, formulation development, and analytical development. And also we are planning a GMP pilot plant in the near future. So those are our clients we developed in China and around China. Okay, next slide. So thank you for everybody for the attention. So if you have questions, I will try to answer those questions through the chat. And you can also find my email here. You can also write me an email. I will try to reply as soon as I can. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Wang. It was very interesting talk and sharing with us your experiences entering the China market. I'm sure there's a lot of burning questions from the audience, but we'll actually save all of them to the end of this webinar. Next up, we're going to have Dr. Feng. So Ms. Feng actually graduated from University of Hasselt with a dual master degree in applied math statistics and biostatistics, while she also received a master degree in economics from Catholic University of Louvain, Belgium. So Ms. Feng has more than 10 years of experience in pharmaceutical R&D and has worked as a statistician, senior statistician, and statistical consulting for Bristol Myers Squibb and GlaxoSmithKline. So Ms. Feng founded Chazen Biomedical Technology Co. Ltd. in 2018, focusing on real-world evidence generation, especially based on real-world data in China. So Ms. Feng will actually now share with you some of her startup experience in setting up this business in China. So Ms. Feng, please.
Sorry. So first of all, thank you BCS and Transfer for the invitation, and also thank you for the very detailed introduction. So today, it's really a pleasure that I have the opportunity to introduce what Chazen is doing. So it's more the topic like real world evidence generation in China. So next slide, please. So my presentation will contain 3 parts. So the first part, so basically Likun is focusing on the pharmaceutical part, and I'm more focusing on the CRO part, but CRO part specializing on real world data. And the first part is the real world evidence generation situation here in China. And also if you or from Singapore, you want to develop a RWE CRO established here in China, and what will be the challenges and how we resolve it with our Chazen solution. And the last part will be the company introduction. Next slide, please. So in terms of the, I'm sorry that the screenshot is in Chinese, but the first PPT that I want to share, I want to show to you is the guidelines for RWE here in China. It's more the policies. As you can see, we have already the guideline on using the RWE to support the drug on the left-hand side and the medical devices on the right-hand side for clinical research. And there are also one guidance that has already been published beginning of this year to say how to select the real world data to support the real world evidence generation part. Next slide, please. So besides the policy from CDE, and now we have a pilot area. I think it's very interesting area that I would like to introduce to you through this webinar is the Hainan, in Hainan province, the Boao Lecheng area, which is a pilot area that has focusing the urgent medical need. So the first establishment is quite early. It's already back to the 2013, which this area has been approved by the State Council. And the area geographically is about 20 square kilometers and close to the airport, railway, and highway within the Hainan province. And the most important highlight for this area is that in this area, there are preferential policies. So the policy is more to focus if you have a drug or medical device from the pharmaceutical industry, which has already been approved by the US and or Europe, but it has not been approved in China, those kind of products can be used in this pilot area in Hainan. And another highlight point is that this area is the first and the only area that we can prospectively, at the meantime, prospectively collecting the real world data. For example, if your product, which has already been approved by the US and Europe, not yet approved by China, but can use in this area, you can generate in your real world data for registration purpose for later on. So I think that's more attracting part for the international pharmaceutical companies. So that's why it attracts a lot of more global pharma to relocate or even set up in Hainan Boao area. Yeah, next slide, please. So here, as I just explained the policy in this area, and here these are the two particular cases that I would like to show. Those two cases are already for filing for registration with CDE purpose. So the first one is the one for medical device, which has already been approved in Boao Lecheng using the real world data, which is the allergen XN. This is the one of the medical device using for the eyes. And another one is the product, it's a drug. So they have chosen one medical device, another one is the drug. So the drug is from Seastone, and this drug is for is approved for the non-small cell lung cancer. And this drug has used the real world data from Boao Lecheng, but not for the full filing documents. It's only for part of the filing documents. But again, those data and evidence are using for the filing purpose. Next slide, please. So I haven't put this notion or definition PPT in the first one because I'm not sure if the audience are all know what is RWD, what is RWS and RWE. But I will quick go through the definition again because I'm not sure the level of the audience. So first of all, yeah, can you please? Yes, thank you. So first of all, the real world data is from the FDA definition. Apart from the clinical data, all the healthcare data belongs to this real world data. And we have the clinical data from the clinical trials. That's why based on the RWD real world data, we have our real world study. If we can get some evidence, that's more the popular word, RWE that we heard about. So that's where is it from. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. So the second part is more this establishment of an RWE CRO here in China, especially my own experience is more in Xiamen. So from the introduction that you know that I'm more doing my education in master's in Belgium. And after my master graduation, I started working in BMS and also GSK in Belgium for quite some years. So I returned back to China in 2014 and I set up. So I first back to my hometown Shenyang, and then I set up my company. It's very funny in Xiamen, and one is my hometown is in the north, and the Xiamen is in the south. So here, this PPT is. Well, I want to show that the geography where Xiamen is, and also where my hometown is. And so Xiamen is more south city, where is just on the opposite side of Taiwan. We call that Xiamen is a city at sea and a city with sea. So in this PPT, I show two tourist sites that is more the representative site from Xiamen. And Dr. Li, I think he's also currently based on Xiamen because we cannot move because of the COVID-19. Next slide, please. And in terms of development history in setting up a company, or let's say based on my own experience. So we have already like almost 3 years, and we are almost the same step as Likun's company. And we have basically just myself in 2018. And with 3 years, we have our Fuzhou branch established and Shenyang branch established with around 20 employees. Next slide. So I think the most interesting part is the challenges if we establish a CRO or company here in Xiamen and China, especially focusing on the real world evidence generation. So you know that RWE depends on the data, so the real world data. At the first beginning, back to 2016, 2018, that my company has started up. So basically we had a lot of difficulties on the data sources. So I will show you in the next slide our solution. But this part, basically at that time we really had a limited data source. It's like, well, you are cooking, you don't have your materials. So if we do RWE, we don't have our data source to do. So it's really the most big challenges that we had at that time. And the second one is that, I don't know in Singapore, but in Europe and US, they have a homogeneous system in hospitals. But here in China, we have all different systems within one hospital. So within one hospital, we have already seven systems to be to make them consistent. And then afterwards, we need to make all of them in the platform with different hospitals if we want to make a regional data platform and then a province data platform. So that's another challenge if we want to create a data platform using for RWE. And then another challenge is that the accessibility. I think that's more the question from abroad. So why, how you can have the access? In which way? Are they identical? I will tell you no. All the data sources, they have their own way right now. We have to figure out via our 3 years experience. And also the quality, patient privacy for the anonymization and use right ownership, etc. All those challenges I listed here are all belong to the data. And in terms of the process, there are also one process which is very complicated. If you want to do clinical trials here in China and even RWE study here in China using the database here in China, we have to pass a complicated process which is called HGRAC, which is quite similar with the ethical approval, and it's on top of ethical approval we need this HGRC process. And normally you need to account for more than 4 months on top of your total timeline. And the last one is linking with my experience setting up a company here in Xiamen. So I have been asked a lot of times in terms of the clients, in terms of the talent pool. So in terms of the talent pool, we really had limited talent pool for our research domain, especially for statistician, for medical writer, etc. But based on our past 3 years, we have trained our own staff. So we have created our small talent pool here in Xiamen already. So that's a good point. Another good point is that in Xiamen, we are the only CRO focusing on the RWE, and also the only CRO focusing on the clinical, almost only CRO focusing on the clinical trial research. So in terms of that, our trained talent pool will not be easily in the competition of the job market. Yeah. Next slide, please. So this is the map that I want to show you in terms of the data sources. As you can see, we had a lot of challenges at the beginning of setting up the company. So as you can see, I think it's the fourth one. Back to 2016, we had only one regional database, which is the Angel one. And now as you can see, now we have all the collaboration with all those in terms of district, city-wise, and even Jiangsu is the province-wise database sources. And for Sichuan, it's a little bit too early at this time to collaborate, but we still list them there. And there are also the database that we are not collaborating, like Guizhou, like elsewhere. I'm not listing them there. Yeah, but as you can see, after only a few years, we started from none to already several. Yeah. Next slide, please. So the last part is, please bear with me to introduce a little bit my company. So my company, as I already mentioned, we have set up on 2018. And now we have, so this is already the past slides. Now we have around 20 members, including stats, SAS programmers, data management, medical writer, and business development manager. Next slide. So basically the organization structure is like a CRO structure. We are not those big data company structure. So we are holding the different functions like DM, stats, medical writing, and project management and admin, etc. Next slide. So I have the honor to introduce a little bit our experts that we are collaborating, and they are two of them from Belgium and one from local in China, from different expert domain. So Amy Li Xiao, who is the senior health economic consulting expert, and she's holding the PhD in health economics from University Antwerp, and also used to work as senior manager in GSK Vaccine in Belgium. And now she's our senior health economic consulting expert. And Dominique Hozjun, who's the senior RWE statistical expert. And from his picture, you can guess that he has already more than 20 years of experience in the pharmaceutical research domain. And the last lady, Jenny Jiang, she's the senior clinical operation expert, and she has also over 20 years of relevant experience here locally in China. Next slide. So to summarize, using this slide, based on our experience, I think RWE will be more and more important, not in the near future, it's already now all over the world, and including, I think, also in Singapore, but in China, I'm pretty sure. And we have more and more demanding service demand. And there are really not a lot of CRO focusing or specializing on this domain. As Likun said, the majority, the big giant CROs, they have the whole process, but they really lack of my specializing domain. They have the whole process for the clinical trials. Yeah. So the last one is that I hope that we can find a way to provide you in Singapore. I know that the majority of the international pharmaceutical companies, they have their AP headquartered there in Singapore. So I hope that we can find a way to provide high quality, creative, and efficient solutions for RWE here in China. Next slide. So these are our part of the clients list, and some of them are international companies and some of them are local companies. Next slide. So I still put this, sorry, it's in Chinese, but I like this PPT because it's Chasen's Wordle. I've translated, some of them are RWE, real world evidence generation, SaaS, data management, and we are small but beautiful, and Chasen. Next slide. And this is the last slide is my contacting information, just in case you are interested and you want to ask me question or consulting, I'm always available. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Feng. That was a very detailed presentation. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions from audiences as well, because RWE and RWD is a very new topic here as well, but it's actually gathering a lot of interest from the pharmaceutical industry, the consulting community, and others. So I'm sure that we're going to save a lot of questions for you at the end of the presentation. Last but not least, we actually have Dr. Li Wei with us here to share some of the experiences entering the China market as a venture capitalist. So Dr. Li Wei actually holds a PhD and an MBA from Nanotechnology University and INSEAD respectively. He has more than 15 years of experience in R&D, IP management, technology commercialization, startup incubation, and investment. He's currently the CEO of Transform Ventures, a Singapore-China venture building platform supported by both Singapore and China government. Prior to that, Dr. Li has worked 10 years at A-Star and has years of experience in semiconductor industry. Dr. Li is also an incubator of IPO office in Singapore and a lecturer at Nanyang Technology University for technology commercialization. So without further ado, Dr. Li will actually brief us on his experience entering the China pharma market.
Yeah,
Dr. Li, please.
Hello, everyone. So as introduced by Richard here, I has been working with A-Star for many years. Before that, I was with A-Star, the commercialization arm. We have been always thinking about how we can create a profit-driven, really, profitable technology transfer office. The technology commercialization arm of A-Star was called ETPL. Now it's changed its name to A-Star Enterprise. So the Transform Ventures is the other version of A-Star, the commercialization arm. Instead of serving the research institute and the research scientists, we are supporting a technology company setting up their operation in Singapore. So here, let me briefly share with you about transform ventures and how we help the company's international development. Richard, can I share my screen instead of yours? So Transform Ventures, we are one-stop venture building partner. We help Chinese company and Singapore company to launch their business in China and Singapore. So this picture explains our business model. We help the international technology company, especially Singapore technology company, enter China market by providing a consultancy service, the market research service to them, help them to land in different cities in China. And we also help Chinese tech company, especially for those middle-sized, fast-growing tech company coming to Singapore, set up their innovation partnership here and set up their innovation center here. We are very different from other incubator or accelerators because our teams coming from A-Star and we're very focused on technology transfer, technology commercialization, especially for the direction from China to Singapore. We get much involved in Chinese companies' internet innovation project management. We help them, we get really involved in the operation of the company in Singapore and get really involved in their project. The company was set up about 3 years ago in Singapore, and later in 2019, we set up our first operation center in Xiamen, my hometown there. And we have the great support from ESG and other Singapore government, and also the local government in Xiamen City. And after 2 years, even during the pandemic, we overcome a lot of difficulties. We set up another 2 centers in Shanghai and Suzhou, also with support of Singapore government and local governments. So right now we have 3 operation centers in China, try to help the Chinese companies set up their innovation center and R&D center in Singapore. We also have more partners and more resources to help Singaporean tech companies enter the China market. Yeah, this is the picture when we have our grand opening in Xiamen. The minister grateful also visited us and witnessed our opening in Xiamen 2 years ago. And as I mentioned just now, the differentiation of our business from other incubator and accelerators is we get really involved in the co-innovation project, especially for the Chinese company coming to Singapore. And also with our cross-border commercialization operation set up in different cities in China and Singapore, we will be able to help Singaporean tech companies in different cities. You know, China market is really, really very big, and different cities, you have different partners, have different market information. So by setting up the operation team in different cities, we will be able to collect those information and provide a holistic view about China market for our Singapore tech companies when they're ready, when they want to move to China. And because our involvement in the innovation project, in the technology commercialization project, we really have a lot of case studies and a lot of experience. So we conduct also training for technology commercialization, IP transfer for government officers, for university students, and also for professionals from companies. And we have been working closely with A-Star, with ESG, with EDB, and also other partners in the Singapore innovation ecosystem and Chinese innovation ecosystem there. And I would like to mention that today's event was co-organized by one of our clients. It's called ASIC. It's one of the company that we are supporting to set up their innovation center in Singapore. Just do a very quick sharing about the company, and you know what kind of work we can do for the Chinese company in Singapore. So ASIC is one of the co-organizers of this event, and our speakers was invited by ASIC. It is an innovation center set up by a Chinese company. The Chinese company is called Frog Prince Group. It was founded in China more than 25 years ago. And it is the #1 ranked brand in China childcare product industry. And it has been venturing into US market and Euro market, and establishing its operation and business in Southeast Asia market as well. And they have a very strong R&D team, more than 100 researchers, engineers, with 7 production lines, set up in different cities in China, in Shanghai and in Zhangzhou. And they're also extending the international R&D partnership with organizations all over the world, in China, in Japan, US, and Europe. And Singapore is one of their strategic locations to set up the co-innovation, the innovation center here. And with transfer support, we help them to establish the partnership with A-Star. And we have one RCA, the research collaboration agreement project with them, to transfer some of technology from A-Star to the market. And we also help them to build to help the researchers to build new ventures in Singapore with their industry resource in China, that we can accelerate the growth of the company. And other than that, we are also actively seeking for the investment to new ventures companies. So all these activities is very difficult for a middle-sized, fast-growing tech company in China to do in Singapore, and Transform Ventures is here to help them to bridge the gap from market to lab. So yeah, that's all about the Transform Ventures and our projects.
Thank you, Dr. Li Wei. So the audiences, and we'll actually continue to direct questions to you. So I think the first question is actually for Dr. Wang. It's actually, and also Dr. Yang, please feel free to chip in if you can think that there's other factors as well. So the question was that what are the key factors contributed to the growth of biotech in China? Or I put it this way, what are the key entry barriers or hurdles you foresee for startups to enter Chinese market? Is it government policy, returning of talents, or is it more specific to the regional restrictions, specifically that there are actually a lot of different dynamics in different cities, as Dr. Yang has mentioned previously? Yeah, maybe Dr. Wang would like to address this question first.
Okay, so thanks for the question. So maybe I can contribute my thoughts first. So in my opinion, I think the government policy is the biggest driver for the changes, for the booms of biotech in recent years. Okay, so this is for several reasons. I think so, because as I mentioned before 2015, so China market is really the need driven for pharmaceutical products. Okay, and after 2015, okay, so this is a turning point. So this is all based on the government policy. Okay, and after this, the government decided to go for higher quality, and meanwhile, it's lower price, and also encouraging the NCEs and also biotechs to innovate for this higher quality and a newer quality to address clinical and medical need. Okay, so the need comes first, and then the talents and also the venture capitals will all coming together, and these factors all comes after the policy change drives biotechs to boom. Okay, so this is my opinion. Maybe Dr. Feng can add some more, and Dr. Li also can add more.
Hello, Likun. So basically, I totally agree with the opinion from Likun. But I think it's the first of the policy driven, and afterwards, it's really the environment. The whole environment is more keen to have those new drug development innovation, and even the people from abroad, they are all in that very exciting dynamic environment, especially in Shanghai and Beijing. And it's a combination of the factor, but I think initially it's driven by the policy. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wang and Dr. Yang. And actually, I would like to follow up on that question, because Dr. Feng Yang's startup is actually on real-world data analytics, and a lot of it is actually involving around data. So there's a lot of question and interest based on that. Basically, people would like to ask, for real-world data is actually in China is actually a very dynamic situation, and also there's actually regional differences. So would there be enough data collected for each individual cases, given that each policy will be different, and also the treatment regimes will be different in different hospitals, even in Xiamen, or say a different region? How to unify those differences when you have collected data? How would that influence your research outcome? And how do you have like a control process to monitor those data you have collected?
So basically, the data source, first, is it the same question as the one raised for the real world data, or it's a different one?
It could be a different one, but just to elaborate on specific challenges faced by your setups.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. So basically, those database sources that we are collaborating, they have different formatting, but they are all belongs to the government, and the government has different policies. Either they will download to their data empowerment to have their data in terms of commercializing the data use to a certain company. Or either they will collaborate with the university. So that's why I said the mode is different. And in terms of collecting the data, I think they have identical ways to collect the data because they all just linking the electronic systems from the hospitals and also the electronic systems from the public health. And also for the other kind of hospitals, such like the pregnant women and the child birth kind of hospital, linking them together. But these systems are different systems right now here in the platform, and we need to find a linking variable to link them together. That's the difficulty. And in terms of the different part representative, I think now we don't have the experience right now because we are the startup of the real world data and real world evidence. In the future, I think we need to link those data together, but it's not the case right now. Right now, our solution is to use our research common protocol to link them in different data. So for example, if we use this protocol in Xiamen, we use the same protocol in Jiangsu, and then at the end, or maybe Tianjin again, 3 places, at the end, we can only pull the results. We cannot do anything to integrate the data because it's not allowed at this moment right in China. But the good thing is that, as I mentioned, we have already a very big data source from province of Jiangsu. So that's where Likun is located. So that part is covering very huge population. And why it can do in their province level is because they start up to have their homogeneity system within all the hospitals as of 2015. So I think it's really a pilot policy from that province. So that's why today they can do this thing. Yeah. So this is in terms of different places. And in terms of the question is raising there is asking the special policy that I presented is the policy that we have the pilot area in Boao. I think it's only a policy and political policy that they want to have a region to open for the drug or to open for the pharmaceutical company, because I think the CDE is aware that in terms of the gap between the products with Europe and US, especially for the very urgent medical need drug, we still have a very long gap, and they want to try to catch up. So that's why they have this pilot area in terms of there are patient needs to have those urgent medical need product, they can have the ways to get them. Yeah, but I think even CDE, they know it's not representative. And also for the drug example that I'm presenting, that's only for part of the filing documents. It's not for the whole filing documents. Yeah.
Understand. Thank you so much for sharing. And this question could be general and to both Dr. Wang and Dr. Yang as well. So, in your experience entering setting up a setups, because you have many years of experience as a biostatistician and also as a pharmaceutical development personnel, what's the you see as your 10 or 5 years to 10 years of experience, the most challenging part of setting up a setup? As you have already shared, right? Some could be talent, some could be policy, but just in your experience, what is the most challenging part? And if you're going to sort of revamp the process, what could you have done differently?
Different people are trying to do different things when they're trying to start their companies. So if doing this again, so I might approach venture capitals and talk to them much earlier instead of establishing the lab and then start to about the market value, which direction is going to, and you can also get some suggestions from them. So that's my experience so far. And also, it's also important to have business partners who is able to work together, really to share some work, and the different people can focus on different area. And in my case, because all my business partners are from technical background, okay, so we really had a really hard time to really finding the client, doing the sales part, business development part, and even now I'm really doing a lot of work on the business development. But I know I'm not the best person to do it, okay, but it's just a part of the process of development. Okay, so as a founder, so we're trying to fix the holes when the ship is really moving out of the harbor, and trying to fix the issues during this journey. And then the more and more people joining in, so we will have more and more specialized people to doing specialized things. So it's becoming more and more efficient during this way. So that's my experience.
Thank you. And Dr. Feng Yang would like to share some of your experiences you have previously mentioned or additional to that.
Yeah, so basically, I don't have any. Looking back to the back, I don't think I will do a different thing, because I'm setting up a company here in Xiamen. It's simply because I like the city of Xiamen. It's not like the Xiamen has a very big, a very better environment in terms of the CRO services and also pharmaceutical research company. I think we are not comparable with Shanghai, Beijing, and even Jiangsu, Nanjing, other provinces. But if looking back to the back, I will still choose Xiamen to set up my company. I will not go to Beijing and Shanghai. I think in terms of a CRO service, we need a lot of resources, and those resources, if I set up my company there in Beijing and Shanghai, and it's very competitive. I cannot afford them a lot of salaries, and so they will not have a good future. They will jump off. So that's what I'm saying. The good point of Xiamen is that I train my talent pool. I keep them there. Yeah, I don't have a competition yet. Not yet. I don't know in the future. But another good thing setting up a company here in Xiamen, I think I have a lot of support from the government. And from my background, I don't think I'm very how to say, splendid and astonishing in Shanghai or Beijing. I will not shine up. But here in Xiamen, as a sole CRO, I think we are still noticed by the government. So that's a good thing if you want to set up a business here in Xiamen. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you both. Actually, then we have a follow-up question to Dr. Liu as well, since you have introduced both Chazhen and also Dr. Wang to us for this webinar. We just like to know, what are the key criteria for venture capitalists to select, a partner in tech space to, have a collaboration and also support them in their creation journey, and also, what's the actually added benefit for venture capitalists to choose this co-creation model as compared to, just simply putting the fund for them. What actually do you, could enhance that experience and to share with our audiences? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe first of all, I need to clarify, although Transfer Venture is called itself ventures, we are not VC. We are not making investment, at least at this stage. So our business model is to get involved in the venture creation project, especially for the Chinese company coming to Singapore, and we are behaving like they are co-founder in Singapore. So, and our angle is very unique. We focus on technology transfer, commercialization, and co-innovation project management. So we have very specific skill sets to contribute to the business, to the operation of the new company in Singapore. So this is a very different from VCs. But in terms of answering your question, I would like to maybe add in a few more points to the question asked by the audience just now about setting up the startup in China, because I have been working and living in Singapore for more than 20 years. Although I was coming from China about 20 years ago in 2000, I never worked in China, never started in China before. So I think Transform Ventures is also consider ourselves as a startup when we have our operations in China. So I think sometimes we could underestimate the difference in terms of culture, the business culture from China and Singapore, because we speak the same language, we assume we understand each other, but I think the business culture is quite different. I had a culture shock when I came back to China after 20 years. And also the choice of city is also very important, as mentioned by Dr. Feng just now. You can choose tier 1 cities, but you may face very competitive competitors, and also the support from government may not be there because this is so competitive environment in those tier 1 cities. But you can choose the tier 2 cities as a launch pad, start your business first, and then move into the tier 1 city when you grow in strength and the technology resource and the connection, and get used to the environment in China business in the China market. So yeah, I'm sorry that I didn't answer your question directly, but I think I hope I can also contribute to some of the questions asked by the audience.
Yeah, thank you so much. And then I have a follow-up questions to this. So basically, an RWE and also new multi-entity or generics, super generics market is actually very competitive. And you said that you have selectively chosen a strategic area in Xiamen and also Nanjing to launch the business. In the common areas, you said, right, as especially Dr. Feng Yang, you said that there's actually, you are the only one RWE entity in Xiamen, but I'm assuming that in China and other regions will be a lot of competitors. So what do you think is your competitive advantage over those competitors in terms of scale? Because you mentioned that your company is actually a small in scale, but moving fast, right? So what do you think are some of the competitive advantage you have over those maybe slightly bigger companies in terms of data gathering and also data policy control? How do you think that you're going to overwin the competition? Yeah.
Basically, we are the only CRO focusing on RWE, but we don't have a lot of CRO focusing on RWE right now here in China. So that's why, well, I set up the company. I didn't choose to do a CRO for clinical trials, especially for data management and stats, because there are already quite a lot. So it's very competitive. So I choose the domain, which is difficult to do because it's startup, but there are really not a lot of CROs. So that's one of our advantage. But in terms of the big data company, we do have quite some giant size, big tech, let's say data company. They call them data company, and they also do our service. But they are, I will not say they're bad thing, but I think our focusing is to do the CRO service, and we are specializing in doing that. And they are focusing is to collect the data and to anonymize the data and structure the data. And we will use our specializing expertise to help them to make the data better. Yeah, so that's how I answer the question. Yeah, thank you.
Really thank you for sharing. Maybe just one last question. Entering the China market, do you have any final word of advice? Maybe just 1 or 2 sentences. Maybe start from Dr. Wang and then Dr. Yan, and then finally Dr. Li Wei to the audience. If some of our startup founders are with us in this webinar and thinking of potentially expanding their services to the China market, given the population, the market accessibility, and all that, what's the one word of advice you would have for them? Yeah.
Okay, so if I'm answering this question or giving suggestions, I will try to suggest people to talk to people running startups in China. Okay, and also talk to venture capitals, and they also know the situation quite well, and also get an idea what's the policies in China, because the policies in China also impacts a lot and it can also change quite fast. So those are my suggestions.
Thank you, Dr. Yan.
Yeah, so I will do an advertisement. So I think you can either talk with me or talk with Transfeng. And I think Transfeng is more the expert to link Singapore and together with local China here, and he can try to find the best solution for you. But if you need RWE service, you can find me directly.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Li.
Yeah, I think in Singapore we're very used to make plans, to make a plan before we take any action. But because the China market is so dynamic, it's changing so fast. Of course, you can asking a lot of questions from your partners, the investors, but there's a limit where you can collect enough information to make up your mind and go to China market. My recommendation is take action, and you will gather much more information, and you will have the sense about the pace of the market and how you're going to deal with different the partners in the market. We had the plan before, but once we launched Transform Business in China, we changed the plan 100%. So take action. Asking question first, but you need to take action at some point.
Yeah, thank you all for your advice. So I guess in summary, just really be flexible and mindful of the very dynamic situation in China, and also take actions once you have a plan, and be prepared to change a lot. So thank you so much, all the panelists for joining us today for this Assessing the Chinese Market Perspective on 2 Startups, and also audiences for staying with us till like 6 p.m. on Wednesday evening. We'll be sharing the recordings on BCS YouTube channel very soon. And if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to direct to us, and we'll try to follow up with the speakers and also Transform. So thank you so much, everyone, and hope you have a good evening. Bye.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.